A lot of people have had questions about Hunter Renfroe. Why is he still on the roster? And what's the goal in Kansas City? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. And you can also find me on wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners, here's how the format works. We bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 5 episodes a week, unless we have some scheduling conflicts. Not always around the same time. We usually bounce around throughout the week. But since I'll be heading out of town this weekend, and then I'll be in San Francisco watching the Royals and Giants Monday and Tuesday, here's how the format for the next week is going to look. You'll be getting this episode around, I would say, noon, maybe 12:30. Might be earlier than that, though. Then we'll be having an episode coming to you in the early hours of the morning tonight. So that'll technically count as our Thursday episode. And then I am going to pre-record an earlier edition of a Mailbag Friday. I'll get that done probably Thursday morning, but it will post Friday morning. So we'll have our usual 5 episodes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll bring you the 60-second recaps as well. You can always check out those on the YouTube channel. You can count on that Saturday and Sunday as well, though actually Saturday is the actual wedding, so TBD on that if I'll be able to get it out way, way, way later in the night. But then on Monday and Tuesday, not planning to do an episode because I'm not going to have my resources. We'll be bringing you those 60-second recaps from the Bay Area, and then we'll just make it up over the weekend, having episodes on Saturday and on Sunday. So that's what you can look forward to. Have the mailbag questions ready to go for this episode, and I'll be putting out a tweet tonight, so you can always respond to that, and I will get to them recording Thursday morning. So if anything crazy happens, just know that's why it's a little bit delayed, and that episode will post very early on Friday morning. Now, before we dive into our show today, I want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Supply House, and you can join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. This has maybe been a long time coming, this exact segment, and I would say I've pushed it off for better ideas, more important matters at hand, but I've been getting way too many questions on Mailbag Friday. I'm not saying way too many as if I'm annoyed by them. It's more so that we got so many questions, I might as well just address it with a full-length segment on one of these episodes. And it's going to involve Hunter Renfroe. In fact, it's going to be all about Hunter Renfroe. And last night, it was not his doing. It was not his fault why the Royals lost 2-1. He had a double that would have been a home run in 17 of 30 parks, but the Royals couldn't bring him around to score. He also had a critical double play ball that killed a rally when the Royals had broken through off Framber Valdez. It has just been a reoccurring theme for Hunter Renfroe this year. And unlike last year, where around this time, you were seeing an upward trend, you were seeing the walk rate go up, you were seeing the hard hit rate go up, it's not been the same this year. It is very apparent that Hunter Renfroe is nearing the final days of his big league career, not just as a starter, but maybe as a bench player. His days as being an everyday starter are long gone. He's not in the lineup every single day. And maybe that's why I pushed off this segment for a little bit. It just wasn't a pressing matter, to be honest with you. He was playing once a series. He was getting 3 at-bats at most, and his defense had been fine. It wasn't as bad as it was early on in the year, so it just didn't feel that newsworthy. Now it's starting to feel a little bit more newsworthy, considering the Royals had already made the cutthroat move on MJ Melendez of you're hitting 085 and it's early April. We just can't count on that anymore. We have to have somebody else in the lineup that can give us a boost, that can give us better defense, but more importantly, can give us an upgrade in right field, give us an upgrade in left field, give us an upgrade in the 7 hole, the 8 hole, the 9 hole. And I will stand by my stance of Hunter Renfroe being a 170 hitter, if that, is not the reason the offense has its struggles, is not the reason they've had their ups and downs. Now, he's had games that have directly impacted a bad night at the plate, but he is not the sole reason anymore because he's a bench player, because he's playing once every series, if that. But if he's playing once every 3 games, or maybe every other day, I do ask the question, then what's the need for him off the bench? And I got this question, I want to say on yesterday's podcast or the one before that, which is, what is the point for him on the roster if he's there to be a pinch hitter, if he's there to be a guy that faces lefties? What's the need if he's going to hit 170? Because there are valid arguments against that. He's not that great of a defender. He's not that great of a hitter. He doesn't walk like Mark Canha does. He doesn't play multiple positions like Cavan Biggio does. He doesn't run the bases like Dairon Blanco or Tyler Tolbert does. What's the true need there? And the Royals are in a spot where they're not looking at Hunter Renfroe and saying he's going to play there because we're paying him. I believe it's a little bit deeper than that. Maybe it's he's got MLB experience, right? He's got MLB experience, and last year he was somebody that had a little bit of pop. He might be able to run into one. It's just not there anymore. There is no more pop in the bat. I understand he got close last night, and he might come close again. And he had a 2-hit game on Saturday. Like, there have been some signs for improvement. But it would be a different thing if Hunter Renfroe was playing every single day. If he was playing every single day and you saw some of the improvements, you might be thinking it's worth it to keep him around. Well, he's starting to get closer to being a 220 hitter, a 230 hitter, something we saw last year. But as a bench player, you have to do something exceptionally well, in my opinion, to hold that spot. Cavan Biggio can play multiple spots, as we just said. That's his value. Tyler Tolbert and Dairon Blanco can steal bases. That's their value. Mark Canha hits lefties well and walks a lot. That's his power, if you will. What does Hunter Renfroe do off the bench? No, even MJ Melendez, who I've been an advocate for before, whether it be this year or last year or the year before that. What I will always say about MJ is that, an everyday player, he's no longer that. At least until he proves me wrong, which I'm not going down that hole again. He's got a strong arm. It's not good enough to give you a bench spot, but he's got power. He's got raw power that was even on display last year. That is a bat off the bench that even a couple of times last year, it worked out because he could run into one. He homered against Seattle coming off the bench. He had the grand slam against the Dodgers. Like, that is the raw power you may need off the bench. Hell, even Nelson Velasquez has some of that power. And the Royals are going to need that off the bench for not being that much of a power-hitting team. I know they had the home run derby in Baltimore a few weeks back. That's not who they are. And when you are evaluating bench spots on this team, I got to know that each and every one of those guys can do something to benefit the team. And I'm getting to that point, maybe I'm already there, where I question what is the true value. And maybe it's veteran experience. And I know a lot of people hate to hear that. Sometimes in baseball, though, that can matter. A guy that's been around for a while, a guy that can be a good clubhouse personality. And maybe you're confident he can break out of it. But that goes back to my point again about it's different if Hunter Renfroe was playing in right field every single night. You're sticking with him because you're starting to see better series, better weeks, maybe a better month. That's what you got last year, and it mattered to keep him out there because you had just signed him. That was his first year in Kansas City. But you are in the middle, maybe not in the middle, the beginnings, if you will, of a season in which you're trying to win the division. And you're trying to get back to the postseason. Make it further than the divisional round, the divisional series, I should say. You are trying to better your team. And I'm not asking the Royals to be overly aggressive in May. And they've clearly got a plan. Let me be clear about that. They've got a plan in place to handle this roster in June, in July, in August. They are already talking about those things. I do wonder, though, what is the goal, right? What's the true hopeful goal? What are you envisioning happens with Hunter Renfroe next month or the month after that? Do you see something at the plate that will maybe flourish in a couple of weeks? Are you seeing a change here and there? Are you seeing something in the clubhouse that makes him a great presence to have around? I am truly curious about it. Not trying to bash on the move or anything, but what is the hope? Do you feel that he can be a 15 home run guy off the bench? Someone you could count on late in the game? Or is it simply that we're just waiting for Jack Caglione to get ready, and when he does, that's the roster move? Or we're just waiting until we make a move, and when we do, that's the roster casualty. And I could understand that. I could absolutely see that. For now, though, if he's going to be sitting on the bench, maybe that spot is just better suited for John Rave or Nick Lofton or Dairon Blanco when he's healthy, Tyler Tolbert. Like maybe that's just a better resource. It's a more useful spot off the bench. Even on Friday night when they were taking on Boston and they walked off the Red Sox, they pinch hit Hunter Renfroe in the game against Aroldis Chapman because he's a righty. And Mark Canha had started the game. And he struck out. And I had to be thinking in that moment, do you wish you had a different right-handed bat off the bench? Somebody that could run into a 101-mile-an-hour fastball? That could do more damage than Hunter Renfroe? I'm imagining that they're having those conversations, what they want to do. My big question is, how long really is this leash? We've talked about leashes for each and every one of these guys. I've said it's going to be shorter the deeper we get into the season. I would like to know right now, though, how short is that leash? Is it 1 more week? 2 more weeks? Is it another month? I'm sure it'll be on everybody's mind moving forward until eventually that roster move is actually made. Okay, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, want to go over this bullpen usage. Some people were frustrated in the loss last night, while Lucas Ursig only threw 12 pitches and didn't go back out for the 9th inning. I've got some thoughts, though, on the way Matt Quatraro handles this bullpen and his thoughts behind it. I'll get into that next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to let you know about Supply House, our title sponsor today. You can get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And once again, I'm going to continue to say this until we actually have that Friday episode. You can expect an episode coming out at about 11:30, 12, though you're already listening to it right now, of course. And then you can expect a early morning episode about tonight's game. And then you can have or expect a very early episode on Friday, which will be still a Mailbag Friday episode. So what you need to do, if you want your question to be answered, because I'll be recording that Friday episode on Thursday morning, leave your questions below on this YouTube video, or you can just reach out to me at JohnnyJ_15. If some trade happens, if something crazy happens on Thursday afternoon, unfortunately, I will already be en route to a buddy's wedding, so we won't be able to talk about it until the following week. So fingers crossed, nothing like that happens. And if they do, I guess I can do a quick 60-second YouTube short, give my quick thoughts on it, so you will have something to go over. Now, for the next thing we're going to dive into, it goes back to last night, and it's about this bullpen. It's about Matt Quatraro and why he handles the bullpen the way he does. Whenever something doesn't go well in a game late, if you blow a 2-run lead, I've always said this, we rarely put blame on the pitcher. Maybe some of you do. I see far more blame put on the manager. I see far more blame fall on the shoulders of Matt Quatraro when a bullpen arm blows the game. When they are put in a spot to get 3 outs, and in the end, they don't get those 3 outs. That was John Schreiber last night. John Schreiber has been so damn good to begin the season. His stuff is playing up, and last night, in his second pitch of the outing, he leaves one a little bit too hittable for Isaac Paredes, who homered into the Crawford boxes in left field. It happens in that ballpark. And the problem was more so that the Royals scored 1 run. They faced an excellent arm on the mound in Framber Valdez, and he's continued to be a huge problem for the Royals. They did not score off Brian Abreu, and there you go. It was John Schreiber making the mistake, and that led for everybody to bring the blame to the front door of Matt Quatraro. Why did you not leave Lucas Erceg out there? Why are we only using Lucas Erceg for a few outs here and there? Why are you going to John Schreiber when he's thrown 3 out of the last 4 days? Or I guess after last night, it would have been 3 out of the last 4 days. There is a lot of thinking that goes behind a bullpen decision. And I was told this once, and if you've heard me say it before, I'm more so bringing this up for the new listeners. I was told this before from somebody involved in the organization a while back, and it was that when you are criticizing a bullpen move, it wasn't to make excuses for a bad decision, because that happens. That's a human part to the game. You go to a guy that maybe was on fumes and it doesn't work out, or you pull a guy too early, you leave a guy in too long. The point was, it's not one man's decision. And when they're prepping for the game, there are guys that are available and there are guys that are not. And last night, there were probably guys that were not available. Lucas Erceg was clearly available because he threw. John Schreiber was still available even though he had thrown the night before. I bet Steven Cruz was unavailable. I bet they said, no matter what, we're not going to Steven Cruz. Daniel Lynch was probably available. They just were facing all righties in the lineup. You're not going to Daniel Lynch there. And the process behind it, the planning of it, is very in-depth. It's not just righty-righty. It's not just, oh, this guy's good, we're going to put him in this spot. There are other numbers that pop up. Well, in the 9th inning, what does this guy hit when leading off an inning? And what are the numbers for Lucas Ursig, John Schreiber, or whoever might be out there against the first guy in the ninth inning? Like, it can be that in-depth. It's not just, oh, righty, and Schreiber's good against righties and Paredes is not. It's not that simple. There is a lot that goes into it. And even though we would like to think that we all can do it, oh, I could make the right move every single time, we would make some mistakes as well. And it's not to make excuses. But last night, I do not have any issue with going to John Schreiber in the ninth inning. Because it didn't work out, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. Right? Lucas Ursig is the best reliever, maybe the best pitcher on the team. And even though you can't really compare relievers to starters, like I would say stuff-wise, Cole Reagans has the best stuff. But Lucas Ursig might be the most dominant of the group. At the end of the day, though, they've got a lot of guys, too, that can get outs and have good stuff. And you can't rely on Lucas Ursig to throw multiple innings in May. Right? That's what you have to go back to. And that's why last night I wasn't ripping my hair out and pounding the table because Lucas Ursig threw 12 pitches and they went to John Schreiber and they got walked off. If you use Lucas Ursig for the ninth inning and he gets out of it, let's say he throws 10 more pitches. It's a clean, efficient inning. He's thrown 23 pitches. Yeah, the Royals might take the lead in the 10th inning with the ghost runner, and you might close that out against, the middle or the bottom half of the Astros order with Carlos Estevez on the bump. You could do that. Then does anybody realize what happens tonight? Well, Lucas Ursig and Carlos Estevez are not available. Whereas now tonight, I would maybe see a world in which Ursig could be available for two batters or one batter. Carlos Estevez will absolutely be available if they have the lead. And maybe you don't even worry about that because you built a big lead off of a rookie pitcher. There are just more thoughts that, go into this. And in May, I'm not sure that using Lucas Ursig for 25 pitches, 30 pitches to maybe win you a game in May is that necessary. Truthfully, the Royals bullpen is different than it was last year, and John Schreiber had been phenomenal. This is a different conversation if he went from Lucas Ursig to Chris Stratton. It's a much different conversation. But throwing John Schreiber out in that spot was not bad thinking, in my opinion. It was a good process. It just didn't work out, and that's baseball to a T. I go back to Monday night, I want to say it was, when the Padres blew the game against the Angels. And Robert Suarez, who had been so dominant, the best closer in the National League, he goes out there, strikes out one, then walks the bases loaded, walks in a run, and gives up all the other runs on base. It was a grand slam, though he was pulled from that. How do you think Padres fans sit there and after the second walk or the third walk, because there was also an infield single or a single that glanced off the glove of the second baseman. Like, do you think they said, well, they should have pulled him, right? They should have taken him from the game. Well, no, but they overworked Robert Suarez and it ended up not working out. But you live by that. There will come a time, too, where Lucas Ursig doesn't have his best stuff and Matt Quatraro leaves him out there. And there will be people going, why did they leave out Lucas Ursig that long? Why did they continue to see this train wreck, see it all fall apart? So I guess to sum everything up here, I'm never going to fault the process. I can always try to see the side of it, unless you just have some move that does not make sense, right? Chris Bubich had given up the home run. They pull him. They use Lucas Ursig maybe earlier than they wanted to, but Lucas Ursig did fine. He had gotten them enough outs to turn it over to John Schreiber, who had been really good. If you want to be upset about John Schreiber pitching 3 out of 4 days, I won't fault you. I can see that side of it. But clearly they had discussions and felt that John Schreiber could be available today or last night. So the process, I always try to see the logic behind it. Why is this guy going here? Why are you pulling Lucas Ursig at 12 pitches? Well, probably it's so that they might be able to use him today. Or with the off day, you'll be able to use him multiple games in the St. Louis series. It's not to say that games in May don't matter, because I clearly said, 2 episodes ago, it matters in certain stretches. Taking a series in Houston is important. That's why tonight is very important. If they would have used Ursig and used the Estevez, and you said, well, we used all the ammo we could, but we lost. We got walked off in the 11th. Well, now your bullpen's pretty thin for the series finale and the season series finale and the getaway game, and Michael Lorenzen's on the bump. You might want your bullpen there ready to go, locked and loaded, to go toe-to-toe with Houston's bullpen late tonight. So those are the mind games, if you will. You use Schreiber. I'd imagine Schreiber is not available throwing 3 out of 4 games, though he threw 2 pitches. So all of these things come together, and that's what fascinates me about bullpen decisions. Why is this guy going? Why is this guy going? Who's available? Who's not? Who's up? Who's down? And last night, I believe it was, we're in May, Lucas Ursig is not going to throw 30 pitches for us in game 2 of a series. We're going to get what we need out of him, and then we're going to turn it over to another arm who's been really good. And last night, John Schreiber made a mistake. I'm not thinking any differently about John Schreiber, though. And tonight, I'm curious who's going to be available if the Royals are holding a lead late in that game. Okay, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, let's revisit once again the Jonathan India and Brady Singer trade. How do we think both sides are feeling about the deal? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can always find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15, and you can leave your questions below on this YouTube video. Felt like a good time to reevaluate what the Jonathan India and Brady Singer trade looks like. And if you can recall, maybe too early on, I thought it was a fun segment at the time, but the second, maybe third series of the year, we did a episode on, well, it looks like early on through 6 or 7 games, the Reds feel pretty good about the trade with Brady Singer and Jonathan India, and the Royals feel pretty good about the trade with Jonathan India and Brady Singer. And now I almost wonder if it's leaning one way. And I'm not trying to be biased. We know this is a Locked On Royals podcast. But I'm going to read you off the 2 numbers, and if it is maybe benefiting that team, or maybe not doing anything at all, or actively hurting that team. After Jonathan India's 2-hit game last night, he's got 5 hits in the series. He's only OPSing at .661, but he's hitting .245. He's hitting .317 over his last 15 games. And on the season, he's getting on base at a .343 clip. And his numbers are not terribly far off from what they were in Cincinnati last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. In 2022, Jonathan India at .249, he got on base at a .327 clip and slugged .378. In 2023, he hit .244, .338 OBP, and a .407 slug. Last year, he hit .248, got on base at a .357 clip, which was his highest since 2021, and slugged .392. Now he's hitting .245, getting on base at a .343 clip, and slugging .318. So the one thing that's way down is his slug, which is affecting, of course, his OPS. But his on-base is right on par, and his average is right on par. So what you traded for is at least showing right now. He's had his slump, he's had his hot stretch, but this is who Jonathan India has been over the last 3 years. And that's my big takeaway from certain trades or trade proposals. You're not trading for the guy that was great 3 years ago. It's what I've said about Luis Robert. You're not trading for the 2023 version of Luis Robert that was an all-star and was an MVP-like player. You're trading for who he is now, which is a 185 hitter and somebody that is a well below average hitter, if you are to make that trade. No, Kyle Wright. We talk about Kyle Wright all the time. And I see comments about, well, when Kyle Wright's healthy, he needs to be ready to go in the rotation. Kyle Wright is not who he was in 2022. He's not the 20-game winner. He, at best for this team, will be a long reliever. That's who he is now. And once you kind of take that in, and realize, oh, that's what we should expect out of him, then you feel much better about certain players that come in. The trade now for the Royals involving Jonathan India and Brady Singer looks pretty good because what he's doing at the top of the order during this stretch is exactly what they traded for. Whereas the Reds, over now the last handful of starts, they have not gotten what they've wanted out of Brady Singer. And the Reds have now fallen to 20-23 on the season. Still incredibly early, and I wouldn't say the Royals being in third place, 3.5 games back, is exactly where they wanted to be. But they are 25-19, 6 games over 500. If you were to look at Brady Singer's numbers, and he'll throw again on Friday night at home against the Cleveland Guardians, so you'll definitely be rooting for Brady Singer. But he is 4-2 with a 4.97 ERA, a 1.32 whip. And last I checked, that is the 10th highest earned run average among qualified starters. In his last 7 starts, his ERA is near 6. He gave up 7 earned on 9 hits and 2 1/3 against Houston last time out. So that really ballooned his total. He still tossed multiple quality starts. And really going into that start, his numbers didn't look as bad. But the underlying metrics of Brady Singer's season are very problematic. And Jonathan India, maybe you could say the same thing as well, but you know what he was going to be when you acquired him, the guy he was the last 3 years. Whereas the Reds, I'm probably thinking that they believed he could do what he did last year in Kansas City, which was incredibly valuable. He was a legitimate number 3, number 4 starter. But you pull up some of those advanced numbers, he is below average. He is below exactly average, I should say. An expected ERA, expected batting average, fastball velocity, average exit velocity, chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout rate is exactly average at 50. He's striking out guys about 21.9% of the time. He is slightly above average in walk rate. He's walking about 8.4 hitters over the 9 innings. His barrel percentage, below league average. Hard hit rate, below league average, and his ground ball percentage is well below average as well. So all of those things are showing you that maybe the regression was going to be real. And I want to say the Royals thought that might be a possibility, but really needed Jonathan India. The Reds were banking on the upside, and early on in the season, he had been really good. He had been putting up those big numbers, throwing more pitches. But this was always my concern with Brady Singer and keeping him for this year. That he may look good early on, but when things start to go south, things could really go south. He's still the guy the Reds desperately needed at the offseason point in which they got him last year, which was in November. And for the Royals, Jonathan India, the same thing, which is why at the end of the day, after all this rambling, when this season comes to an end, and if both of these guys were not the players they thought they were getting, those teams thought they were getting, it still was a right move at the time. And I still root for Brady Singer to do well, and I'm sure Reds fans root for Jonathan India to do well. But that's how the trade's looking right now. For this point in time, May 14th, the pendulum is swung in favor of Kansas City for what Jonathan India has done of late and what Brady Singer has done of late for the Reds. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Our next episode you can expect later on tonight, or I should say the early morning hours. We'll give you a full breakdown of that game. And then get your Mailbag Friday questions in so we can answer that when I record tomorrow, but it will post very early on Friday morning. But until tonight, or early morning hours, I should say, you take it easy, Kansas City.